Back to my take on the Pope's visit to America. My next guest is a Catholic congressman. He is planning to boycott the Pope's appearance before Congress this Thursday. Welcome, Arizona Republican Congressman Paul Gosar. All right,
Good
Paul,
morning, Stuart.
You are a Catholic.
I am.
Why don't you want to sit down and listen to what the Holy Father has to say to you?
Well, the thing about it, Stuart, is the priorities that we find ourselves in. We find an administration in a world that's treating the symptoms of a disease and not a disease. And the one person who can speak clearly about this message is the Pope in regards to calling out the tolerance, the religious tolerance, the sanctity of life, and doing it right now. But it doesn't appear that that's what he's going to talk about. Well,
he's going to talk about climate change. Is that your problem?
It's climate change and income inequality and everything else under the sun. And in such a precipitous point in time in this history, this Pope is the one person that can bring levity and call out Islam and governments around the world to look at the lives being lost, the Christians being lost around the world, and speak up about it.
But look, he is the leader of the Catholic Church. You are a Catholic. He's been invited to speak to Congress. It seems kind of disrespectful, if I can use that word, to walk out, just not listen to what the man has to say.
Well, I think the point we're trying to do is have His Holiness review the time and climate in which he speaks. And he's going into Hell's Den, which is Washington, D.C. Hardly we can say that this administration has actually been helpful to Christians around the world. In fact, they've actually pacified a lot of the Islamic militants that we've seen around the world.
So is this a protest
Absolutely.
against what the Pope is going to say, without you even knowing what the Pope's going to say?
Well, the thing about it is when we've seen him talk around the world, he has been very, very pointed about climate change, about immigration. He's talked about income inequality. And he doesn't deter from those applications. And I think at this point in time, coming into Washington, D.C., particularly when we're at the core front of all these transcending issues, but more importantly, about the sanctity of life and the religious intolerance that we're seeing around the world, he has a duty to look at his flock in the world and call it out.
There's 2 points I'd make. Number one, I don't think Christian people, ministers, popes, priests, whatever, I don't think they should be preaching politics from the pulpit. I don't think that religious leaders should be involved in politics at all. That would be point number one. Number two, I definitely agree with you. I think the Pope is anti-capitalist, and I think that's a grave mistake on his part. So for those 2 reasons, I can understand opposition to the Pope. But you've lost me on not attending his speech. I think it is disrespectful and not in the American tradition, quite frankly.
Well, I think we've made our point in regards to that application, Stuart. We have a right to fundamentally not agree with the Pope. Yes, we'll listen, but I think intolerance, maybe he'll listen, to the fragments that I represent that say, hey, listen, keep that politics out of here and represent and triage what's so important right now in regards to the intolerance to religion and the sanctity of life. I mean, look at...
Before we leave you, I'm sorry, Paul, but before we leave you, are there any other members of Congress who will follow you out of that chamber?
That I don't know, Stuart. I think everybody has to look at their own soul and look at their own actions and stand up about that. That's the way I look at this, and that's the way I stand.
All right, Paul Gosar, we appreciate you being on the program today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Stuart.